Alright guys, we're back. It's another beautiful summer day here. It is, however, extremely hot. It's about 38 degrees here. But it's not too humid, so now's a good time to get into painting this front lip. So as with any paint work, the most important thing is your prep. If you don't do the prep properly, your paint job's just going to look shit, and that's just a fact. So to start with, we'll give this a wash, then we'll rub it down with some Prepsol. Prepsol just gets rid of any any grease or oil, any foreign materials that are on it that might react with the paint, and that's one of the biggest things you need to get rid of. Silicons, oils, any sort of lubricant, anything like that will end up reacting with the paint, so obviously we don't want that. Then we'll rub it down, we'll give it a prime, rub it again, and it should be ready for a top coat. So to sand down the existing paint, I'm going to be using some 180 grit. I would prefer 240, but unfortunately I don't have any, so 180 is going to have to do it. For the rubbing the primer back to apply the top coat, we'll go to a finer paper like a 400, and that'll give us a nice top coat. But 400 is not really coarse enough to get the primer, so the idea behind the sandpaper obviously smooths everything out, but it does actually leave a slightly rough surface. It gives the primer something to actually adhere to. So going too fine, the primer might not stick. Going a little bit rougher isn't going to hurt us. It just means we might have to do a little bit more heavier coat of primer just to make sure that it fills any of the troughs and valleys, if you know what I mean. Righto, so this is the fruits of our labour so far. So you would have noticed too, just before, after you've sanded it, before applying the primer, give it another wipe down with Prepsol. For a couple of reasons. You don't know if there's anything on the paper. If it's contaminated, it might leave a residue that might react, and it also just makes sure it gets all of the sanding dust off so that it's nice and clean. So I've just done two light coats. It's come up really nice, it's nice and smooth, and when I do it, I like to do all of the edges and all the fiddly bits first, and this front one is obviously the one that's going to be most visible. I try to do that last, and you would have seen the video too. Try and do one constant motion all the way to the end instead of stopping and starting. That way you get a nice, even, consistent coat, which is what you want. So the reason I do all of the edges and the fiddly stuff first is exactly that, is that if you did it the other way, you did your nice visible surface, then you go back and do your edges, you're going to get overspray and lines and stuff, and they'll stay in the one that's visible, and that's what you don't want. So we'll give that some time to dry properly, and then give it a light sand with some 400, wipe it down with Prepsol again, and then it'll be ready for top coat. That's the finished product. It is nice and white. Yeah, I can actually see what's going to happen here. It's going to make the rest of the paint on the car look shit because it's going to be brand new. So, hard to spot on video, but you see it's nice and glossy, even. There's no shadows or lines or anything in the paint. So you would have seen the video, it's a good 4 coats. I'm happy with the coverage. It's best just to do a few light coats rather than to try and pile it on, because if you spray it on too heavy, you end up with runs and stuff like that. So You would have noticed too that each coat, I always use the same pattern, start in the same spot and go in the same directions. Couple of reasons to do that, but the main one is just so that if you do it the same way every time, you're not going to miss spots and have uneven coats and things like that. So I'll give that about sort of 15-20 minutes, maybe half an hour, to make sure it's really dried properly, and then we can fit it to the car, get it back together, and then the Skyline's pretty much good to go again. Isn't she beautiful? How good did that come up? Looks great. You can see, as I was concerned about, you can see a slight difference in the paint there, but no one else is really going to notice it. Hopefully that, once it gets a bit dirty, should be right. If I was feeling really energetic, we could probably give the guards and bonnet a bit of a polish up, just to brighten them up a bit and match the shade a bit better, but to be honest, I really can't be bothered. Car straight again, looks good. See new coilovers. It is sitting a bit higher than it was before, which is probably a good thing. So it makes our guard flaring a little bit extreme, but at least we know that it won't rub. So time to take it for a test drive. You see the old man come out, he'll start screaming at me about the dust and wreck it is grass. So there might be a bit of excitement coming up. Alright, we're in business. Already sounds a bit better at the back there. Oh, much better. No ridiculous knocking. Oh, they're playing silly buggers. Cheers, Maxi, for the coilover. So during that little test drive, I did notice that under acceleration, there was a weird knock coming from somewhere. So obviously it's going to be driveline. So I've chucked it up on the hoist, and let's see if we can spot anything obvious. Say around this center bearing area here. Oh no, look at that. Do you reckon that's the problem? Nah, can't be that. Jesus Christ. It's always something. Well, I better fix that, eh? Get on to order another one. More money, more parts. Woo. Woo fucking who. But at least the coilovers are good now, so you know, so everything's progress. Righto guys, gave a bit of a clean up. This is how she sits. With a little bit of love and affection, the old girl still scrubs up really nicely. Turns out, if you wash like 2 years of mud and dust and rubber and water off this paint, it actually comes up a bit nicer and matches that new white paint just a little bit better. There she is, folks. Isn't she beautiful?